Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that success doesn't happen alone and that somebody else has oftentimes come into our life to help us with that success, we're recognizing those folks who helped us excel. I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from the leadership development industry with us today. My guest enjoys traveling and is planning a trip to El Salvador, where he will only spend Bitcoin for the week. Wow, that is cool. He also does a solo camp trip once a year deep in the woods to disconnect and recharge. His strength comes from his faith, a supportive wife, and his willingness to do everything in his power to achieve his goals. Please join me in welcoming Harrison to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, let's start with having you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born, where you live, a little bit of your family, and maybe some of your hobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised right here in Indiana, a product of a proud Hoosier. I'm married, 2 kids. My beautiful wife, we've been married 25 years now, I believe. We have 2
Congratulations.
children that are 22 and 20. I'm really blessed with both of those kids. Look, it's International Women's Day, the day we're recording this. And we're talking about mentors as well. So number one, my wife absolutely is the bedrock of everything. And my 2 kids, I'm blessed. I've got one in nursing school right now and one that just graduated cosmetology school. So she's off to be an entrepreneur like her dad. So we're really excited about that.
Fantastic. Now tell me a little bit more about this deep woods camping thing that you do once a year.
Yeah. So I've been in social media, digital marketing, whatever, since 2004, I think. And being connected all the time it keeps me alive. It keeps me functioning, but it's also my job, my recreation, all this stuff. But it's exhausting. It's taxing. It creates extra anxiety on you, right? Did I get the post out today? How many likes did I get? Am I producing this for a client? All those things that hit you? And I used to say people that did this were insane. Like, how can you disconnect? Until I did it for the first time. And literally, I just packed up a tent, put it on my back. I went deep in the woods, so no electricity, no nothing, very minimal food. And I just got in the forest and was just alone. So meditation, prayer, the nature, everything there, and a full disconnect. And I realized when I came out, I was still exhausted because look, when you're doing that, it's tiring. You're not sleeping in your comfortable bed. You don't have your normal rhythm. But I came out so recharged, and I highly recommend it for anybody that right now might be feeling the stress, anxiety. It works too if you're maybe addicted or so connected right now to the news, things like that. Look, the world might not blow up in a couple of days, but look, at the end of the day, it's so good for your soul.
That's awesome. Hey, Harrison, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us?
A funny story. Well, okay. This is a little embarrassing. So when we bought our first house together, I kept going to the post office to take my mail. And my wife one day said, what are you doing? Why don't you just put it in the mailbox? And I said, what do you mean? That's where they get the mail. And she said, that little flag, don't you know? I had no idea what the flag. I did not know they took the mail from your house with the little flag thing. And they still make fun of me to this day over that.
That's awesome. Well, I didn't know that either until I moved into the city. I grew up in the country, and I don't think that they did it where I grew up. So, Harrison, tell us about how your business came about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Wow. Confidence. That's a constant work. So without going too deep, I do live with something called social anxiety disorder, which is a major challenge when you do what I do. I mean, I speak, I train, I podcast, I work with so many other people. I'm in all these groups, but I've learned to turn it into a superpower. So much so I'm even writing a book right now about people that have been able to turn pain into a superpower, use it as fuel instead of going the other way. And it's allowed me to create this discipline where I wake up in the morning, I meditate, I go into prayer. I do what I need to do to get my head together. Right. Throughout the day, I do small meditations. I really practice this to stay centered and calm. Now, for years, I thought this was nuts, voodoo. Like, come on, man. This is like what the Hare Krishnas or whatever do. This doesn't work. But I'm here to tell you it really does, because when you get yourself centered, when you really focus on that, it does build your confidence. It does allow you to understand that you deserve to be in the room that you're in. So just to give you a little background on that, look, I come from a blue collar family. I barely graduated high school, military guy, always had this chip on my shoulder. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I was always kind of good looking enough. But struggled with that chip on the shoulder. And with that comes this constant problem with your self-confidence. My father was brutal, not physically, but he was emotionally abusive now looking back. But again, I'm not tearing on him. He did the best that he could do with the tools that he had been given. That generation was much different than we are today. But when you get beat down for so long, you start to believe the hype, believe the news, believe what people say about you, right? So you have to take control of that. I didn't for years. Looking for mentors. We're talking about mentors here. I didn't listen to anybody. I was not coachable. I was the extreme opposite. I put everything on my shoulders and I said, I can do this all on my own. How wrong I was, right? I did succeed. And look, I truly believe money's easy to make. I really, really, it always has been for me. It's hard to keep. So much so that I'm studying some of that even now, like generational wealth and what happens to wealthy people. And I just looked at a study recently, 70% of wealth gets lost in the second generation and 90% of it by the third generation. So even though there's a period of my life, I was just looking at money for success and I made a lot of it, I still wasn't happy, right? It took me losing everything. So to come back up a little bit, I was in the real estate business, lost it all in 2008, didn't recover for a very long time from that, but it was humbling. And then you do realize that money wasn't the answer.
Right.
And because I wasn't coachable, also when everything crumbled in 2008, I realized I had no friends. I was an order taker. I was a lone wolf. I only cared about the job, the gig, the deal, being a big shot, doing whatever. But when everything crumbled, you turn around and you're like, well, dude, I don't have any friends. Like I didn't build any real relationships with anybody. But in my mind, it was like, well, they're all sharks anyway. Right. Because it was a pretty tough business.
Right.
But that's not true at all, because now I've reconnected with a few people from that past and I realized, dude, they were all good guys and they were all trying to help me and I didn't do it. Right. So today I've really dedicated a big chunk of my life to helping other people just figure out who they are. Right. Who are you? Because we have so many people out there leading, and every single one listening, watching this is a leader in some format, right? Whether it's your household, your kids, at work, it doesn't matter. We're all leading something, right? But you have to understand who you are first, the self-leadership piece of it first, in order to be a more effective leader outside. But to do that, we have to know who we are. We hear about authenticity all the time, but the problem is you can't be your authentic self until you know who you are. And I am so guilty of that in the past, so guilty of that. But again, I'm on that journey myself. I'm taking other people on that journey, and it's been just incredible.
That's awesome. So Harrison, I know you've had some successful businesses and you've sold them and now you're doing something new. You've just alluded to it, but tell us a little bit more about what's your business and how are you helping people today?
Yeah, so Amplify Prosperity Group, we really focus on helping people figure out who they are, understand who they are, so they can perfect what it is that they do. This isn't just about building your business. That's the mistake I made for years. It's about being a better father, a better parent, a better person in your community, how you give back, how you function, right? What you put out in the universe. The great Peter Block, if you don't know who that is, he's just an amazing community builder. He made a comment to me a couple of weeks ago that has really stuck with me. And it took a while for me to figure it out. He said, the moment that you make the decision to say something, you change the world. Now we all hear these quotes and they're, kind of hyperbole or whatever. And at first, that's what I thought, right? Okay, this is a pretty shallow quote. But then I started thinking Peter Block doesn't typically say anything shallow. So he said it. I need to figure out what he meant by it. And as I went deeper, I realized, okay, so energy is never created or destroyed, right? It's just distributed. We just move it back and forth. And the minute that you say, you decide to say something, it comes out, you have changed the world, whether it's positive or negative. You're either pumping somebody up or you're draining them. Even if it's this micro piece, it matters. Right? We're seeing it in America right now. We have so much division, so much negative energy. You can feel the negative energy in the air. I didn't feel that years ago, but you feel it now. Every time you go outside, it's there. It's in the air. It's thick. We have to change that. And that's what I'm on a mission to do. We do it through emotional intelligence assessments. This is the way to really figure out who you are. Most assessments you guys have taken out there are typically based on personality, things you can't really change. I'm not knocking them. I think they're amazing. They really help you learn a lot about your personality. The problem is you can't really change your personality.
Right.
It's not something other than like major life events, right? Like I have different priorities when I was 20 than when I was 30 than I do now.
Right.
But other than major life events, your personality is pretty much in stone, right? But your behaviors can change. Self-awareness, self-awareness is such a superpower, but it's something that you don't just have. You constantly have to be focused on it because the world will take your self-awareness away. Your selfishness will take it away. Your ego will take it away.
Sure.
Right. So you've got to really be lasered in on it. And that's really what we do. We do it through these assessments. We do it through mastermind groups, safe spaces where people can come into, like you have alluded to in the past about the hustle, the 24/7, all these different things, the fake it till you make it culture. My father came from that hardworking blue collar, I'm going to sacrifice my life to put a roof over your head and food on the table. We came from the generation of fake it till you make it, baby, because we're going to be successful, but we have to make sure everybody knows it at all times. Right. So we've created safe spaces where people can come into and say, look, man, we know everybody is not successful all the time. And even if you're successful, again, prosperity is all about, it's not just wealth. It's not just success. It's about balance. It's about truly finding joy and happiness.
Right.
And that's what this system that we've put together does for people.
That's awesome. So how does that work in terms of people come and complete a survey or a questionnaire, and then
Yes.
Where do you take them from there?
Yeah. So they take the assessment, and then after the assessment, they attend a workshop. And right now our workshops are literally with the creator of the assessment himself. So we have this very special kind of cool thing going on right now. From there, we go into a mastermind group where for 90 days, once a week, you can come in and talk about your assessment, because these readings, these analysis, they're like sitting down with a psychiatrist, opening up your guts, really looking at yourself to be real. And let me explain why I'm doing this. I was introduced to Dr. Snively, who is an amazing mentor of mine. We're talking about mentors. I took his assessment 3.5 years ago. I scored off the charts, so much so that Snively himself wanted to do my analysis. Now, I thought it was because I was so brilliant. But come to find out, he thought I gamed the system. I cheated, because the best leaders don't score this way. It's just not something that he sees. And he's done tens of thousands of assessments in his life. He's 30 years in this. So we're sitting there, and through this, he just told me, be open and be honest. And he made me feel so comfortable. And I am a closed guy or I used to be a very closed guy. But he opened me up. Again, put your guts on the table and really evaluate yourself. And he gave me the space. He gave me the permission to give myself the permission to do it. Living with social anxiety disorder, which is something that has been a challenge for me for a very long time, very hard in the business that I'm in. It was uncovered that the reason why I scored so high is I answered the questions the way that I thought they should be answered, or the way that I'm projecting they should be answered the way I thought a great leader would answer them. So my test was not technically, in my mind, it was authentic, but we uncovered that I wasn't cheating. This is how I coped. This was my mechanism to work through my social anxiety, to make sure that I felt like I should be in the room, that I was successful, that I was smart, that I was equal. I mean, I'm sitting in rooms with guys from Harvard and guys that have raised $20 million, and this is all I got. I got to fake it, right? At that time. So I had done this for so long, it was such a part of me now. So over the last 3 years, I've really just tore myself completely down, stripped myself down. I'm working on a workshop idea right now of stripping every label away from all of us, right? Let's get rid of every label that you possibly have. Let's get it down first to you were made in the image of God. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
Right. That's one thing, no matter where we're at in the world, we can all look at and realize, boom, there you are, stripped down to the core. And then let's start putting the layers back that need to be there and leaving the other ones in the closet, or let's bury them, or let's burn them, or whatever we need to do with those.
Wow.
Right. And that's the way that we bring people back, because man, right now people have so many layers.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just so heavy, and so much anxiety, so much that we're going through. And I mean, look, we just came out of a pandemic, into the political division, into this Ukraine scenario. So it's just trauma after trauma after trauma. And it's very easy to get caught up in all of that and lose yourself.
Amen. Hey, I appreciate your humbleness and sharing your journey. Harrison, tell us a story of where someone pushed or inspired you that you could do it, and the impact that they had on your life.
Wow. Okay. So I have a few. Bob Berg, if you're familiar with Bob Berg, the Go-Giver. So back when I first got into social media, it was the Wild West. It was fun. We were connecting with people all over the world. There was a crew in Chicago that actually cut a deal with Ford Motor Company to drive a Ford Flex down from Chicago to Orlando for I forget, it was Bob Berg's Extreme Business Makeovers event. That's what it was called. Now, I didn't want to get in the car with a bunch of younger, crazy kids. I was still young, but they were really young. But they drove down there, had fun. Bob invited me down. I went down there, experienced everything, got to meet him, become friends with him. Through that, I got to meet Zig Ziglar before he passed, God rest his soul, who was a big mentor, just at least from books. Mm-hmm. From me, right? The Stinking Thinking and all that. And this book, look, is it groundbreaking? No. I mean, a lot of these books have been written over the years, but the reason why it's important to keep these books coming is this right place, right time.
Yep.
And in my life, I needed this book because I was a taker, right? I was a taker. I was a deal maker. I was a negotiator. I was a big shot. I was all these things. And I realized I didn't give anything. Mm-hmm. All I did was take. And Bob really opened up the doors on how important it is to give, not to be taken advantage of. But look, if you're blessed, you have to give back. And it doesn't have to be money. Volunteer, be part of the community, just make the world better in some fashion. Share those blessings with other people. So Bob is one. And I got to share the other one, which is Jay Samit, because this is the guy, his first book was Disrupt You. This book is Future Proofing You. He's another one of my mentors. This man, brilliant in every way, shape, and form. The most successful person I know by far. Still the most humble guy I know.
That's awesome.
Just like you and me. Just like this guy could go to the Academy Awards, or he's worked with multiple presidents, mm-hmm. but he can also sit in some podunk little honky tonk and get along with everybody there. Like, he's that humble. And he's always made me feel welcome. He's always made me feel his equal. And trust me, that's one of the men, when he talks, I listen to every single word that he says.
I love that humility. It's so inviting to be able to rub shoulders with people like that, because they don't make you feel less than, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Hey, Harrison, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
Biggest learning? Well, one, never give up. Look, I could have given up so many times, told you're not good enough, not smart enough, believing all that. You are in a world where sometimes people are going to tell you that, even as you're succeeding.
Yes.
Right. Enjoy the small victories. That's another thing I never did. Right.
Mm.
You close a small deal. It's only even a few $100, dude. Enjoy the few $100. That's, how many people are in the negative, right? You made something, you created something, you believed in something so much, and somebody believed so much in you that they spent $10, $100, 50. It doesn't matter the number, right? And keep building on that. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do it. Don't let the anxiety stop you from doing what it is that you want. And please, this is the biggest mistake I made. Ask people for help. Ask for mentorship, right? You will be surprised how many people will come out of the woodwork to help you. You just ask them.
Yeah.
Just
I
ask.
I like that. I'll call it the snowball effect. So celebrating those little wins, right? It creates that momentum and that internal excitement, right? That then it leads to the next win and the next win. And so often we're taught to, at least in the corporate world, we're taught to save it up, right? It's,
Yes.
celebrate the quarter win or the 6-month win or the year win. Well, there's a lot of hard days in between a quarterly win, right? So I love your
Yes.
perspective of how do we celebrate the daily or the hourly things that are happening in our life and create that positivity around it.
Yeah. Remember, energy is it's not created or destroyed. So it's yours to take. It's yours to turn into what it is that you want. Let me ask the audience a quick question. Like, I know right now politics is something that's polarizing everybody, but think about the next time that you're on Facebook and you leave that comment when you're upset, right? That it's just bugging you. You put it out there. Take stock in how you feel in that moment. Right? Because here's the biggest tip I can give anybody right now, because this right now is our demon that we're dealing with, that anger and anxiety and the social media piece, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you're not going to change anybody's mind online, right? That's going to happen in rooms or one-on-one, or deeper relationships change minds, right? But what I do now, because I got caught up, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else out there, but now, and sometimes I still type it, but I read what I wrote and I ask myself, is this positive? Is this negative? Is this draining or is this inspiring? And if I can't say that it's positive or inspiring, I'm not going to hit the send button. Right. And I'm now getting to the point, because of Peter Block a couple of weeks ago, the moment that you make that decision, now I'm trying to even catch it before I write it.
Yeah.
Because at first I thought this is healthy to just get it out. Well, why is it even in me? Because there's something else happening for this anger, this frustration. Why do I care what Big Mama 48 thinks about politics today, right? Or some stranger in Idaho? Like, what?
Yes.
But the whole system is set to hit us with our emotions, take advantage of that, the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, all those things that are out there. But don't let it control you. You have the power. Don't turn it off. Like, we have to stay connected. You have to know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of people are just dropping out. And I think that's a big mistake too. You have to create the filters and the discipline in order to deal with it. And you have the power inside of you.
Yeah. I love that perspective of we can choose how we react, right? So we're going to have a reaction. It's natural, but we can choose whether it's positive or negative, and the vibes that we then put out by following up on that positive or negative energy. Well,
Yes,
Harrison,
absolutely.
we know that success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges during the years, and a fellow business owner who helped you get through that.
Well, look, thinking about it, Amplify as a whole, because Amplify Indy was the company before, and it's kind of evolved into what it is now. I was going to all these networking groups and I was struggling. I couldn't find the networking group that I wanted to be part of. Either it was sell, right? Which is not my style whatsoever. I've never been a hardcore salesperson. It was drama, complaining, right? That's another group of people. You can tell they've been together forever and all that. Or it was shallow. It was a bunch of unsuccessful people telling me how to be successful. right? I mean, you're telling me how to make $1 million a month, and I walk outside and you're driving a 98 Toyota Corolla. Like, I'm not judging anybody driving a Toyota, but I'm saying you have to exude, I would think, a certain amount if you're making $1 million a month or a week or whatever that is, right? So I just got tired of all that. And I decided to create a network myself, the network that I thought was missing and wasn't there. Now, when I lived in California, this is what I've modeled everything after. The great Ken Ratowski. He has a group in Los Angeles that's now online and whatnot. But at the time, it was anybody who was really a powerhouse in Hollywood, in entertainment, musicians, and just, I can't say any names, but some of the biggest names in tech and in Hollywood, period, are members of this group. I remember being asked to come into the group. Now, at first, when I'm in there, I'm like, I don't belong in this room, right? Because again, social anxiety and all those challenges that I was dealing with. But the minute I walked in the room, when the door shut, everybody was an equal in that room. It was so powerful for me because I'm sitting with guys that built rockets that go to Mars, and I'm his equal in this room. Right. I'm sitting with the guy that founded one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. I'm his equal. They all made everybody comfortable. And I'm like, this is what I've been looking for, because if anybody should have egos, it's these men.
Right.
And trust me, some of them do outside of the space. But the beautiful thing was, in this room, everybody was equal. I wanted to bring that back to Indiana. So when I came back to Indiana, that was my mission, to create this group that mimicked much of what they were doing out there. Because look, if celebrities and these people of very high net worth and massive success can do it, sure, we can do it here in Indy. Yeah. Now, it's a whole different set of challenges because the ego and the everything is a little bit different in a different market, but human behavior is still the same at the end of the day.
Sure.
Right. And it's breaking through those barriers with those people to get in a room and say, look, it's time to get real. It's time to build a real relationship. It's time to be honest with yourself and be part of a group that can be honest with you, and you can be honest with them. So Ken Ratowski has been a huge influence on my life for sure, because I've basically molded everything Amplify. Really, I have to give credit to him.
That's fantastic. So Harrison, if you had to pick 3 people in your business owner journey that you're most grateful for being there for you and helping with your growth, who would those 3 people be, and how'd they help you?
Yeah, definitely Bob Berg, right? The 5 laws of stratospheric success and understanding the power of giving. Don't just be a taker, you have to give, right? It's just as big of a blessing. It's a bigger blessing typically to give. And I have learned, look, the more I give, it seems like the more things happen, the more opportunities.
Sure.
It's just fascinating. Jay Sammet, for sure, because that man, he makes me think 50 levels higher. And I think my thought process is pretty disruptive at a pretty high level. But every time I'm around him, I realize, dude, I'm still thinking small. Right? This guy's thinking on a whole different level than any other human on the planet. So for sure there. And 3, look, it's International Women's Day, the day we're recording this. And I mean, other than God, it's my wife is the bedrock in my life, because this woman, anybody out there that's an entrepreneur or business owner is going to know what I'm saying. Anybody that's aspiring, trust me, this is going to happen to you. It is a roller coaster of emotion, of finance, she has been with me when I was flat broke and couldn't rub 2 nickels together, when we had $1 million, when we lost it all again, on the road back. And she has never one time lost faith in me. She never said to me, maybe you should stop and do something else. And my wife is not an entrepreneur. She's a nurse now. She was a stay-at-home mom for years. She honestly, in her world, likes to work, likes to paycheck on Friday. But not one time did she ever try to take that out of me, because she knew if she did, I would die. Like, it would be a prison. It would be the most miserable thing. I would rather do this and live in a cardboard box under the interstate than have that job at Ford Motor Company.
Yes. Well,
But we're not going to live on a box in the
yeah.
interstate, right? Because we've learned so much now on how to prevent that from happening.
Fair enough. So, Harrison, as you think to the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you'll be facing to achieve your goals? And who are the types of people that you're going to need in your life to resolve those?
Yeah, look, I think my biggest challenge, I think, is the biggest challenge of everybody right now. It's technology is moving so quickly, right? I remember my father, the first time he used an ATM machine, messed him up. He just did. How does this little machine know how much money with this card, right? The world had passed him by, 65 years old. But we look to the older generations for the wisdom, right? The experience. Now we're looking to the younger generation because technology is moving so quickly that we can become a dinosaur tomorrow. Like I'm heavily into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in that world, but the NFT world, I'm still struggling with the art and why people are paying 30, 50, $1 million for a JPEG or it's still very, I understand the smart contract side, but I'm struggling with this art other than it's a collectible, but still the prices are so crazy. I'm struggling, but that's my age. I don't get it because I'm older. I haven't been part of that since the beginning. So the biggest struggle really is keeping up with the technology and understanding where everything is moving. It was much easier to be disruptive and forward thinking in 1990 than it is in 2022, right? We have AI, we have the VR and all these other things happening. So now we're doing meetings in the metaverse. So much going on. And where do you spend your time? Because look, I still have a wife. I still have kids. I still want to go camping. I still want to have some fun in my life. I just can't be researching technology 24/7. So that's the biggest challenge, I think, for all of us right now. And the type of people are people that they're tired. They're exhausted. They don't want to be filled with this anxiety anymore. They want to take their business, their life, their wife, their husband, their kids to the next level. They're focused on finding joy and happiness. They understand it's not in money. It's not in success. Those are pieces. Being successful helps with the happiness. But at the end of the day, success alone doesn't give it to you. And if you're frustrated, you've had enough. I want you in my group. I want you in my life. I want you. I don't care what it is, whether you take an assessment, you're part of a mastermind, or we just get on the phone and we become friends. I am here to help as many humans as I can find happiness.
I love it. Wow, that's so powerful.
I do want to say this real quick.
Yeah.
Because Amplify, especially Prosperity, best book ever written. If you want to improve your financial literacy, The Richest Man in Babylon. It was written in like 1926, and it is so relevant to this day. But my company is founded with this. Our prosperity as a nation depends upon the personal financial prosperity of each of us as individuals. Because we're hearing right now, so many people complain, let's raise minimum wage. Let's do this. The system's out to screw me. Nobody owes you anything, number one. Right. Number two, there is plenty of pies. There is plenty of money. There is plenty of opportunity for the taking. But the system, and it's not your fault because the system has beat you down. The school system, the job system, this growth-based economy that we're in of consumption, never enough. I want more. Dude, let's get off the wheel. Let's get off that hamster wheel and really look at how can I become independent, sustainable, and free? Because if you want happiness, it's with freedom.
Yes.
That's where all the happiness is.
Amen, brother. So, hey, Jim Rohn, love him. One of my favorite quotes from him is, we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So as you think about that, Harrison, is that something that excites you? Is it something that makes you nervous? And what are your thoughts on that?
Now, it's funny that quote has always stuck with me. Like years ago, my mission, I got to be the smartest guy in the room. Have to be. Even if I'm not, I got to con myself into thinking I am, right? Today, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, right? I want to surround myself with people that are not financially, it doesn't always have to be financially, but people that are thinking bigger. They want to give more, right? They don't want to just solve the homeless problem on 10th Street. They want to solve the global homeless problem, right? They don't just want to, I mean, it's just about thinking bigger, and we have it in us. All of us do, but we're so stuck with this micro thinking, right? And we've got to get out of that, because anything is possible. Anything is possible.
I love that you referenced a few books today, and sometimes when I share this that quote with people, they're like, "Well, Tim, I can't physically be around, the five people that I want to." I was like, "That's fine, right? What books are you reading, or what videos are you watching?" So there's different ways to surround ourselves with those five people, right?
Yeah, this guy's been dead for, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years, but he's had more influence on my life than 99% of the people I physically met.
Yeah.
Just because, again, money has always been easy to make. It's hard to keep. This book shows you how to keep it.
Right.
And look, it's thin. Like, you don't need to be a PhD. You could read this while you're going to the restroom for a couple of days. It's that simple. And it's not, I think that's the other thing I'd like to get across to people. It's not complicated. I'm sorry. Business, the basics of business is not complicated. The basics of generating wealth is not complicated. The world, the systems outside have tried to make you believe that it's complicated. Yeah. Don't fall for it.
So Harrison, wrapping up here, if there was something catastrophic that happened in your business today, who's the first person you'd call, and what would that conversation be?
Wow. Well, the first person I would call is I would pray, right? Because I forget the quote. It's like, when everything's gone, God's working. It's something along those lines. But again, it's things like this book and even the Bible that have helped me. That, look, if I lost everything tomorrow, none of this is my money anyway. Right. None of this is mine. I'm just a steward. Like, it's in my care. And once I started understanding that concept, it's amazing how your relationship with money changes. It's all God's money. It's not mine. So if I lost it all tomorrow, apparently he didn't want me to have it, or I was misusing it, or whatever. Right. But I know I can go get it back. It's temporary conditions. There's nothing that's ever, look, there's nothing in me that's ever going to force me to give up what I'm doing. And my brother even said it years ago. He said, "Look, dude, you're either going to be broke in a gutter as a derelict, or you're going to be a massive success. There is nothing in the middle for you." And he's right, because I'm all in. I mean, I'm all in.
I love it. So Harrison, you've been blessed with some incredible people, and I appreciate you sharing how they've impacted your journey. If they were all on the show here today, what would you want to say to them?
That I love them, number one. And then I'm grateful. Like, in the past, I would say I didn't deserve them. Now I fully realize they came into my life. I deserve them to be in my life. I'm sure they've hopefully learned now from me, and everything happens for a reason, but you have to be open to it. You have to let it in. I wouldn't have let these men in some of the stages of my life. I wouldn't have. So be open to that. I'm so grateful for everything that they've given me, because I am the man I am today because of guys like Bob, Jay, and my wife, and Dr. Snively now. Oh, and I got to bring up Charles Gwynn too. Charles Gwynn and George Middleton, man, if I don't say this, it would be a travesty. So in dealing with diversity, inclusion, and all those things that we deal with now, right? We're trying to create these, it's amazing. We're at war just to treat people nice and with respect, right? But Charlie Gwynn worked directly with Dr. Martin Luther King. So getting guidance from him and hearing the stories of Dr. King and what he went through, and amazing eye opener. And George Middleton, who wrote this book, Black, it's Beliefs Limiting Authentic Cultural Knowledge, understanding marginalized groups and understanding empathy, understanding that this is another big nugget I want to give everybody. Two things can be polar opposites and still be true. Listen to that. Two things can be polar opposite and still be true. So, case in point of that, I went to one of those human libraries. If you're familiar with that concept, you check a person out and you sit there and they tell you their story. I checked this woman out, And she told me the story of how police were just brutal in her neighborhood, and they were disrespectful, and the men would scatter, and it just, everything that you hear is what she experienced. In my world, growing up in Whiteland, Indiana, Otto Lewis was an amazing chief of police. He took care of us. He was like this other father figure. We did fear him, but he took care of us at the same time. So are police horrible? Well, in her world, yes.
Right.
In my world, no.
Yeah.
Both are true. And once you start understanding that, you can now have more empathy. You don't have to be so stubborn that, well, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You don't know what their experience is. You don't know what their life perception is. But self-awareness creates that, and it creates empathy. So now you can start walking a mile in their shoes to really kind of understand what that is, and then fight for them, right?
Right.
That's what we're supposed to be doing anyway.
And it goes to what you were saying earlier on about just the division in our country. And by understanding the other side and having those conversations, it will help to break down that division, because to your point, it's not always black and white, yes or no, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Harrison, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today, and I appreciate the opportunity to have you on the show and share your insights with our audience.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor. I thank you for all you do here in Indy. I see you online. I know you're a positive influence and all that. So I just really appreciate you greatly.
Thank you so much. To everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and post about it on social media. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.